Good evening folks, Silver here. This video marks our 500th video on this channel. It's been a crazy journey, 5 years of stories, and to this day, Pokemon Creepypastas, or Pokepastas for short, still stand as the most popular videos on the channel. So, as a celebration of this incredible milestone, I present to you 5 stories that many years ago were narrated here on my starting out setup with bad sound and all, reimagined and re-narrated at the standard you all hear today. Thank you all for sticking with me this long, and hopefully, here's to 500 more. And if you're among the folks that watch these and haven't subscribed yet, if you enjoy this video, why not subscribe? It's free, and you can always unsubscribe if you change your mind later. With that all being said, enjoy the stories. Hold Release by Grumpy Ninja. I worried about him sometimes, constantly bumping into walls, scraping off the scabs that covered his knees and staining the denim fabric of his pants an ugly shade of maroon. I worried about the purple-stained bags under his eyes. Despite the beds we often come across, I'd never seen my trainer sleep. Humans need sleep, right? I worried about the fossil too. It had a pretty spiraling shape. Pretty, but not pretty enough for Red to have reason to stare at it constantly and run his fingers over the contours of it with a crazed, obsessive look in the deep scarlet eyes he was named for. Even though it was just a rock, he looked at it with so much fiery hot passion and intensity. Maybe it was because he was troubled, as the whispers of those that thought they were out of earshot put it. He heard voices in his head. Millions of horrible, awful voices, Charmeleon said with a twinge of pity in her voice. Maybe that's why I had to fret about him like this. I worried about him during our fateful trip to the Pokemart. He was stuffing Pokédolls into his bag at an alarming rate, depleting his wallet almost completely before he managed to buy what we'd come for. A stone that would allow me to evolve. As far as I'd been told by the senior mons of the party, the plan was to buy a water stone, enabling me to become a sleek and graceful Vaporeon with the ability to cross water. I wouldn't have minded that, but the Fates seemed to have had different ideas. Red snatched up a firestone and hastily, jerkily pushed a wad of bills over the counter before ambling out of the shop, wincing at some loud noise only he could hear. I wondered why he'd bought the wrong stone, as the rest of the team whispered worriedly among themselves. Maybe it was because he was troubled. I never really thought about the stone as we continued our erratic journey. Red was rifling through the pockets of his backpack in no particular order again. Maybe he did it to make sure everything was there. Suddenly, the firestone was in his hand. He considered the item for a moment, before his facial features softened for a moment. He got down on his knees to be on my level, and I returned his eye contact. "Eevee," he whispered, his voice harsh and crackly from disuse. "Be my flame. Be the light that can guide us through this asinine adventure." What? What about Vaporeon? What about surfing together, leaping through the white sea foam with Red in tow? But if it would make him smile, even for a moment. I tentatively reached out my paw to contact the translucent orange stone, and I felt the light of evolution wash over me. Heat, power, majesty flowed through my systems, unable to be contained and busting out into an impressive wispy mane and dyeing my fur a noble crimson. Even I could hear the screams in Red's head at that point. He gritted his teeth, futilely jamming his hands over his ears, arching his back in pain, screaming to drown it out. My evolution didn't make him smile. I made him cry. I failed. I failed as a partner. I failed as a friend. "Oh, that's too bad. He'll have to replace you." "What? Who said that?" But they were right. My chest felt constricted, and my heart beat so fast, like it was trying to escape. I was gonna stay with Red, whether anyone liked it or not, I thought, noting Charmeleon's glare. That night, paranoia seized me like a huge clawed hand, digging through my skin and into my lungs. Would Red really replace me? The disdainful glances I caught Rattata shooting in my direction told me yes, he would. I couldn't stand that. Despite his affliction, Red loved me. He said it himself. I would be his guiding light, his flame. We would be champions together, no matter what. Well, you'll have to make sure you don't get booted from the team then, That Lapras looks awfully promising. I choked down a sob. I had to make sure there was no reason for my trainer to consider using another mon over me. It was me or them. Someone else would have to go. You've got new powers now. It shouldn't be hard to eliminate a competitor, unless you're weak. This voice. It was sinister. It was trying to goad me on, but it was right. My knees were locking up with apprehension, but I was strong now. Charmeleon and Rattata were conversing quietly in the corner of the Pokemon Center. Charmeleon fidgeting with her tail, Rattata nervously grooming his whiskers. Red didn't need them anymore. He already had a fire type, the most fiercely loyal fire type in all the world. He had better than that Pokemon who spoke of him with doubt in her voice. I sprang forward and dug my teeth into Charmeleon's neck as a red haze overcame my vision. The voice chuckling in the back of my mind, the metallic taste of her blood in my mouth. I'd gotten lucky, and I'd hit a major artery. Rattata, who had been paralyzed by fear, sprinted off to get help as the flame-tailed lizard's blood decorated the tile floor. Haha, our base speed is higher. I easily caught Rattata, pinning his tail with a powerful paw as I spat up white-hot embers onto his prone form. They tingled in my throat, made pleasant sizzling sounds as they burned away flesh and fur. I did it. A laugh bubbled up from inside me as the haze started to dissipate. Red stumbled in, and soon, his features contorted into an expression of abject horror, followed by grief. He slowly, oh so slowly, bent down to inspect Charmeleon's corpse. A tear fell from his eye, followed by another one, followed by a salty deluge. I killed them. I killed 2 innocent Pokemon. Red's head turned slowly towards me, and I shrunk into myself, overcome by an immense wave of guilt. It was that voice's fault, not mine. You promised to love me unconditionally, Red. The expression of sheer sorrow snapped me out of my twisted mindset. They didn't deserve to die. I promise. I'll make it up somehow. Red, hand shaking, recalled me into my Pokeball with a cry of anguish. We walked to the PC by Nurse Joy's counter, Red still cradling Charmeleon's lifeless form like some sort of doll. Once released, Flareon is gone forever. Release Flareon? Bye-bye Flareon. The last thing I felt was my essence ebbing away on the digital tide. Blood Moon by Dragontype09. I sighed. I was so tired of black, white, and a hint of red greeting me every time an egg hatched. I wanted a shiny Absol. Was that so much to ask? Absol is my favourite Pokemon. When I first started playing, my friends all liked Absol. So, when I found one, I caught it immediately. I named her Werder, which means Fate in the Eragon book series. Now, I had transferred her to my Omega Ruby game and was trying to get a shiny Absol. I considered the possibilities. I could keep breeding for a shiny, or I could use the Dex Nav. I could trade, or, well, I could always cheat one in. My friend was great with coding. I brought my 3DS to her and asked her for a shiny Absol. A few days later, she brought it back to school, telling me to check my PC. I flew to the nearest city, went into the Poke Center, and checked the PC. There, in my box, filled with all the non-shiny Absols from breeding, was a shiny Absol. I squealed and hugged my friend, thanking her over and over again. I hastily went to Slateport, went into the name rater's house, and renamed the Absol. A girl. Blood Moon. It was the name I'd decided on ever since I'd first saw a picture of shiny Absol. When I nicknamed the Absols, I went with something dramatic like Storm, Doom, or Fate. It seemed fitting. Blood Moon looked awesome. Her red skin looked amazing, her green eyes pierced into my soul. Actually, it almost felt like she was staring at me. Creepy. I instantly started training her with some Blissies at my secret base. Soon enough, Blood Moon was level 49. I was quite pleased with myself. One fateful day, I happened upon another trainer who I then battled. Blood Moon reached level 50. The message popped up. Blood Moon got 667 XP. Blood Moon reached level 50. Blood Moon learned Blood Slash. Blood Slash? I was very sure that that wasn't a move and it didn't even exist. Blood Moon already knew 4 moves. It should have to ask me to delete one. I just hope it didn't replace Dark Pulse. It didn't. When I entered Blood Moon into battle, where the Mega Evolve choice would normally be, it had an extra button for Blood Slash, which was a Dark type move. Curious, I tried it on the Zubat in front of me. Blood Moon used Blood Slash. It played the animation for Night Slash, except the white lines were a faint red. May Zubat rest in peace. The Zubat fainted and the battle ended. That was weird. I love me a Creepypasta and I knew there was no chance that that was normal. I decided to try an experiment. I started a battle, another Zubat. I clicked on Dark Pulse, but the screen said that Blood Moon doesn't want to use that. Blood Moon refused to let me use any of her other moves. I also tried switching her out for another Pokemon, but the screen just read Blood Moon wouldn't move. Running wasn't an option. Literally, as there was no run button. I sighed and clicked Blood Slash. It played the same animation as before, and just like last time, it said, "May Zubat rest in peace." But I noticed something. The animation was a slightly darker shade of red, and Blood Moon lost 1 HP. But something else was weird. Blood Moon had 100 max HP now. I wasn't sure what it was before, but it wasn't that. I went to a nearby Poke Center and healed my Pokemon. When I checked Blood Moon, she still had 99 HP left. Something was really wrong. I tried depositing her into the PC, but it said the same thing as in battle. Blood Moon won't move. I tried switching someone else to my first party slot, only for the same result. I sighed and deposited one of my other Pokemon. Then I flew to the battle resort and picked up Werder. Later on, I was walking through some grass to get to my secret base. I had been avoiding battles as Blood Moon's HP was at 2, despite her not taking any actual damage, and I didn't want to know what would happen if she fainted. However, I had forgotten to apply Repel, and a battle started. Of course, Blood Moon went out, and I had to use Blood Slash on the innocent Spoink. By now, the animation was a deep crimson red. May Spoink rest in peace, the usual message read. When the battle ended, I wasn't on Jagged Pass, but I was instead in a cave. I moved forward, and I saw something. I gulped. It was a limp, bloody Zubat. I kept moving, and more sprites appeared. All of the Pokemon that Blood Moon had killed, one by one. At the end, sat Spoink on top of a stone slab, and behind it stood Blood Moon. But Blood Moon wasn't a sprite from 6th gen. It was a 3rd or 4th gen, and it had a creepy, insane grin on its face. "Are you happy?" a text box said. A yes or no option appeared. I clicked no. This was insane. What was going on? "I will make you love me." The battle then started, the background flickering between 3rd gen and 6th gen. Entity Blood Moon appeared. Emily sent out Blaze. My giant Charizard popped up on the screen. Blood Moon only had 1 HP left, but I would have to sacrifice one of my Pokemon. I clicked the Pokemon button. I had Blaze, Lapis the Lapras, Ember the Delphox, Hades the Giratina, Werder, and an empty slot. I clicked Hades. I was least close to it. Emily retrieved Blaze. Emily sent out Werder. My heart almost skipped a beat. Not Werder. She was my favourite Pokemon I've ever had. "Exactly," Blood Moon said. "Without her, I will be your favourite." This was nuts. I turned off the power and I hoped I didn't lose too much data. The screen flickered off and then quickly back on. "Your tricks will not affect me," Blood Moon said. And then, Blood Moon used Blood Slash. "No!" I cried. I quickly clamped down my mouth shut, as it was 11 o'clock at night and my little sister was across the hall from me, sleeping. I watched Werder's health go down down and down, even though she was level 100 and Blood Moon was level 66? She was level 50 before. She hadn't gotten any XP since learning Blood Slash, but it didn't matter. Werder was doomed. Until Werder had 1 HP left. I clung to the desperate hope that somehow, some way I could defeat Blood Moon and forget all about this. But before I even chose the fight option, a text box appeared. Blood Moon used Blood Slash. The animation played through, so red it was almost brown. I desperately watched Werder's health bar, but nothing happened. Suddenly I felt kind of weak. I slumped down from my sitting position. I was passing out. I fell off my bed, hard, and my eyes closed. When I opened my eyes, I looked up into 2 green eyes and a red face. Blood Moon was staring at me. Blood Moon, the fictional pocket monster. I screamed, louder than I've ever screamed before. Blood Moon flashed me an insane, bloody grin as I passed out again from shock. "She's awake, Doctor! She's awake!" I woke up in a hospital room, with beeping equipment surrounding me. What happened?" I stammered. A nurse turned to look at me. "You were in a coma, dear. You fell and hit your head pretty hard," she explained gently. "How long?" I managed to get out. "Oh, not long. About a day," she smiled. "Thank goodness it was a weekend. You have no homework to catch up on." So that left me with one question. How much of what I saw was real, and what was a dream? And for half a second, I could have swore I saw a red, scythe-like tail slipping past the doorframe. Just Wanted a Chance by Section. Just one chance. It's all I wanted. But no. Cast aside. Unwanted. Useless. I never knew my family. My parents are trainer Pokemon, so it makes some sense. My first memory is hatching in some trainer's hands. My fur soft. My legs wobble. As I get up and take my first few steps, I stumble. The trainer looks at me with disgust. I wonder why, but then he sends out the rest of his Pokemon. All of them sparkle and shimmer when first coming out of their Pokeballs. I stare in awe. They're all so pretty. Different coloured versions of their species. In front of me, a black Charizard named Storm, and a yellow Altaria named Candy Wisp. To my right, a pink Crobat named Fang, and his pal, a red Drapion. I hear a large snap behind me. I spin around to see a stunning blue and white Sylveon. He quickly brushes the dirt off of himself. Looking at his paws, you can see he tripped on a stick. Clumsy, but cute. I can't help but stare. That's when I notice that they're all special. They're all rare shiny Pokemon. I run over to the lake to look into the water to see my reflection. I stop. Staring in anger, I know why I was stared at with disgust. I'm just a normal Pokemon. A normal looking little Fennekin. I don't understand. Which makes sense. I'm too young to understand. I run up to the Sylveon. He walks away. The rest of the Pokemon turn away following his example. The trainer picks me up by the scruff of my neck. Staring, he says that I'm a disgrace, tying me to a rope and dragging me around, hoping to make a quick penny off of me. After about 2 hours or so, he stops. I look up, and I see that it's getting dark. The trainer ties the rope to a tree, and puts up a tent and goes to sleep. The Sylveon sneaks out of the tent, and offers me food. Maybe he's not such a bad guy after all. I accept the offer and start eating. It tastes great. Amazing actually, considering it's the first food I've had since I hatched. After Sylveon went back to the tent, I clean my fur and then go to sleep. I wake up. It's just about sunrise. You can see the sun breaking the horizon. I look around. Nothing to be seen. I'm alone. The trainer left me here, tied to a tree. There's a bowl of food and some water next to me. A gift from Sylveon. I don't care about the other Pokemon, or the trainer. What he did is cruel. Not even giving me a chance to show that I'm special too. I chew off the rope, eat the food, run off and start to train. I must get my power up. Then you will see that I'm not useless, that I deserve a chance. I train and train and train. I can feel myself getting stronger and stronger. Eventually, I collapse. I forgot to eat or drink. I was too caught up in getting a chance. I pass out from hunger. I had nightmares, never being wanted or given a chance. After a while, I come to, or I think so. There's a fire burning in front of me, and some food next to me. It's dark out. It must be late. There's a shadowy outline of someone on the other side of the fire. It comes forward, revealing itself to be Darkrai. You seem upset, needy for revenge. What hurt you so much to cause this? It asks in a raspy voice. I try speaking, but only a groan comes out. I can help you, make you stronger. But first, eat. It will get your strength up, he says. After eating, I fall asleep. When I wake up in the morning, I feel better. Great, actually. I get up off the ground and notice that I'm further away from the ground. Darkrai is gone, but came through with his promise apparently. I head down to the stream down the hill, and I look at my reflection. I have changed, and I am stronger. I am a Veltal, and not just that, I'm a shiny version of the Pokemon of Destruction. I burst into laughter. Time to test out my new wings, I guess, I say with a giggle. I burst up out of the trees, into the air and start soaring. I search for him, the one who discarded me. I am no longer Fennekin, a non-shiny Pokemon unwanted by the trainer. I am the shiny form of Destruction. Dive bombing, I snatch him up in my talons, and I don't care if there's a crowd. The Pokemon League can watch as I gain my revenge. The satisfaction of spilt blood. I close my talons tighter, and feel the warm liquid seep out of his corpse, his life force giving me strength. I land, the crowd hiding, his Pokemon leaving with the look of freedom on their faces. Except for one, Sylveon, staring at me in horror. He asks me who I am. It's me, Fennekin. I freed you guys from that monster, I stated with a grin. Sylveon stared at me unhappily. You are not that cute little Fennekin. You're the real monster here. I don't know what you did to become this, but you must leave, he said with anger. He never gave me a chance. He left me to die. He just wants rare things. He doesn't care about us. I screamed, but Sylveon turned away. He left me, not giving me a chance either. He walked up to his dead trainer and licked him, hoping that he would wake up. Furious, I attacked, killing Sylveon in the process. I flew away back to the hill where I gained my power. I dug out a cave and went to sleep. Just one chance. That is all I wanted. Now no one will defy me. Wally by Terra91. The experience I'm about to recount to you is quite short, unfortunately, but I remember it quite vividly. You remember Wally, right? The cute little boy who served as your rival in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald. Yeah, he's easily one of my favourites. He doesn't seem to have any emotional hang-ups. He's not arrogant, he doesn't constantly call you weak, he's not a hyperactive annoyance, and he's not trying to deceive you, even for the smallest amount of time. He's just a sweet, innocent little boy who wants to be a good Pokemon trainer. He was the one I hated to beat, but at the same time, I loved it. The way he accepted his defeat at my character's hands, with the vow to try harder, made me feel like I was a motivator of sort. I wasn't beating him mercilessly, I was helping him get better. It had been quite some time since I played my Ruby game, a few years at least, but I never once misplaced it. I suddenly got the urge to play it one day, after watching the Jirachi Wishmaker movie. I found it neatly tucked away in my sock drawer in the exact same corner in which I had left it. It wasn't even dusty. The cloth protection of a bunch of unused socks kept it safe from any damaging elements, which in turn answered the question as to why I had placed it in my sock drawer in the first place. I located my DS. I misplaced my GBASP quite a while ago. Not that it mattered, and quickly inserted the red cartridge, excited to see my old, completely unbalanced Pokemon team. I selected my save file and saw that I'd saved right in front of the Pokemon League, which was good considering I planned to challenge them straight away anyway. Rather, since I was there, I figured I'd pay my favourite little rival a friendly visit before doing anything. First Wally, then the League. Then I'd see if there was a chance I'd been lucky enough to find my game on the day I could find Mirage Island. As I stepped away from the League entrance, following the zigzag path downward, I stopped a moment and opened my party. Normally when I leave a Pokemon game alone for a while, I found out that the last thing I did was trade to help out my Pokedex on my other games. It certainly wouldn't have been the first time that I enter a battle completely unaware that I had a party full of level 5 Rattata and Magikarp. It's a bit of an embarrassing situation to say the least. They were all there though. Inferno, the level 100 Blaziken. Volcano, the level 85 Groudon. Dalorus, the level 87 Rayquaza. Duragon, the level 65 Salamence. Harbinger, the level 55 Absol. And Vengeance, the level 34 Banette. As I said, painfully unbalanced, but they were all there, just as I had left them. I was relieved actually. That meant that Ruby was the game I hadn't abused the Pal Park with. It must have been Emerald. But that's not really important though, and I'm getting off track. My party was there, so I didn't have to waste a few minutes going back into the lead to switch out my dinky little underleveled Pokemon for something a little better. So I began my little trek to see Wally once more. As I entered the cave, he was standing there waiting for me already. I couldn't remember if that was what he was supposed to do or not. As I said, it's been quite a long time since I've so much as thought about this game. But I was excited to talk to him either way. Whether I felt guilty for beating him or not, I really loved seeing him. I approached him and pressed A to talk, but rather than have him say something in greeting before challenging me to a battle, the trainer spotted theme played for a second or two before the screen flickered, signifying a battle had started. But just as quickly as the screen faded to black, it faded back into the normal cave scene once more. Only, Wally was no longer there. I shrugged it off, thinking that years of having the cartridge had actually put a little wear on the game's inner workings. Not that I'm actually tech savvy enough to really know how that would work. I started to walk away, thinking I'd tried to see if this glitch continued in the Pokemon League. If it did, I was out of a game. I'd have to either reset or get a new one. Either option would kill me. Inferno was the best Pokemon I've ever had, though before I could take a single step past turning around, the Pokénav rang. I didn't think it could function properly in caves like this, but since I was kinda close to the exit in open air, I suppose it made sense for it to work. Wally. Come to Petalburg. Click. I'm not entirely sure how to explain it, but with the little hiccup my game just had with the battle scene, and the fact that I'm almost positive that small bit of dialogue wasn't scripted, I just felt uneasy. Nonetheless, I got out of the cave and selected Dalaros to fly to Petalburg City. When I got there, I could tell something was off. The whole area looked foggy, and all the colours looked as if they'd been washed out, leaving the normally cheery little town looking rather dismal. Even the music was different, just slightly though. The tempo had been noticeably slowed, further adding to the incredibly dreary effect. I explored the area a little, going in the few buildings surrounding the Pokemon Center, just to see what else had changed. For one thing, no one was around. The area was completely devoid of all NPCs, but it didn't take me long to figure out where they all were. I walked up to Wally's parents' house to find 7 NPC sprites lining the path to the door, 2 columns of 3, with one standing to one side of the door. All of them wore black, and my uneasy feeling only grew. Curious, I spoke to each of them. None of them seemed happy. This shouldn't have happened. I thought he was doing so well. We thought he had beaten it. He looked up to you. Why couldn't you give him a break? He'd still be with us if not for you. He didn't think he was good enough to move further. It's your fault. I knew what was going on now, but I didn't want to believe it. But as I walked into his house, I was forced to. A couple more NPCs dotted the small room, as a black coffin rested in the middle of the area. Wally was dead. I spoke to the other NPCs, most only repeated, "It's all your fault," but one, which I believed to be his mother, explained things a little better for me. The damp cave air aggravated his condition. He strained himself to become better so he could finally be as good as you. But he pushed himself too hard. His body gave out. A hiker found him, a Pokeball clutched in his little hand, his Pokemon refusing to leave his side. He called us using Wally's Dex Nav. Do you know what it's like? Being informed by a total stranger that someone you love is dead. Pay your respects and leave. This is all your fault. By now, I felt absolutely terrible. Wouldn't you? So, I did as I was told and walked up to the small casket. As soon as I touched it, the music stopped and a blank dialogue box popped up. It stayed there for a few seconds before a single word was slowly typed out in it. Why? A battle started, a real one this time, rather than the teaser I'd experienced earlier. My heart sank as Wally's sprite slid into the opposing trainer's spot. His skin was pale, his colours were washed out, and he looked quite sad. But what hurt the most was the opening battle announcement. Pokemon trainer Wally wants one last battle. He sent out his first Pokemon, his cherished Gardevoir, who also looked upset. I assumed this would be the trend with his Pokemon. I sent out Inferno. Sympathy urged me to throw this battle, to make his last one a good one for him. But the competitor in me said to give it all I had. Guess which one I listened to. Inferno plowed through each and every one of his Saturn Pokemon, knocking them flat with one attack each. As the battle ended, Wally slid back into the frame, his sprite now mostly transparent, and said, "Why can't you let me win?" When the battle screen faded, Wally's mother approached my character and pushed him back and away from the coffin. "Get out! You're done here! You disgust me!" As she shoved me out the door, instead of appearing outside the house, the screen cut to white and began rolling the credits, as the names of those involved in the production in the game faded in and out. The white was replaced by an ending scene. Poor Wally's funeral procession. NPC sprites slowly paraded through Petalburg, the tiny casket at the center of the crowd. My eyes watered as they slowly left through the right exit of the city. The camera followed as they stopped at a small patch of grass where Wally had caught his deer Ralts. When they stopped, they all turned to face the screen, just for a second. But I could almost feel the judgment as they turned back to the casket. The screen faded to white, and Wally's trainer sprite faded in. Beneath it were 3 little words. In loving memory. Project Evolution by HS664. I'm not proud of this. I nearly ended the life of an innocent Pokemon. I hope one day, some pure-hearted trainer will catch this Pokemon and help it reach its full potential we wanted it to have. For now, we must tell you this story. Day 1. Our studies have finally yielded fruit. I've found that in Surge City Bay, there are evolutionary stones that never lose their power. A diving team has been sent to the underground estuary, where the stones are said to be held in a shrine. Day 2. The stones have been retrieved. We now have 8 stones of virtually limitless power. We're going to retrieve other items from other regions. We're now developing a search team to search the waters around City Dark Isle, where it's believed to be another shrine. We've also sent out groups to find special rocks from Sinnoh and Unova. Day 2. Z's story. I don't like getting up. I want to stay asleep, but Dad said he wanted to talk to me today. I'll just see if he forgets. No chance of that. Dad wakes me up. We need to talk about evolution, he says. Great. I don't want to talk about growing up yet. I get up anyway. Dad says I'm not a normal Eevee. He's right. I'm a different color than the other Eevees. Dad says that that's called being a shiny Pokemon. Mum, a Glaceon, and Dad and Umbreon and I get into our living room, a nice furnished room inside of our human-made house. I knew this talk would come soon. I didn't want it though, but they said I needed it. I'm gonna be some lucky trainer's Pokemon someday. Dad explains that Umbreon is the Dark-type evolution, with high defensive stats. They have the powers of Moonlight, a poisonous spray, and other status moves. He says that Eevee becomes Umbreon at night if they have a strong relation to their trainer, or with a Moon Shard. Mum states that Glaceon is the Ice-type evolution. The species has a high defense and special attack. Their powers include making their fur stand up like needles, and flash freezing moisture in the air. She says that they evolve when near special ice-covered rocks. After that, they handed me a book written in that messy human language. It contained entries of all 7 evolutions. I'll start with the first, Jolteon. The lightning Pokemon, the electric evolution. They evolve through the use of a Thunderstone. They have a high speed and special attack. Their arsenal of techniques include Thunder, Pin Missile, and many others. They gain power by breathing in negative ions. They tend to make their fur stand on end to be sharp as needles. Hey, just like Mum. Vaporeon, the Bubble Jet Pokemon. They evolve via the use of the Wartstone, and have a high hit points and high special attack. Their move pool includes Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Acid Armor, and more. They can disappear into the water, making them near invisible underwater. They are commonly mistaken for mermaids. I have the strangest sensations to check my water before I drink it next time. Flareon, the Flame Pokemon. And they evolve through exposure to a Firestone. They have a very strong attack and special defense. They have an internal flame sac that can make their body as hot as 1650 Fahrenheit. They use moves such as Flamethrower and Fire Fang. Now that's on fire. Well, I went through all the evolutions, and they all have their strong points. Evolution will be a hard choice. I decided to just rest, but then, the next day. Day 3. I got out of the car. Professor Fur looked at me worryingly. "Are you sure that shiny Eevee will be okay?" he asked. "Of course," I replied. "We're not Team Rocket. We want to perform these experiments to better our understanding of evolution. We have to make sure all of our experiments are humane for Pokemon." Professor Fur looked worried, so we agreed that he could watch all the experiments. We found the shiny Eevee, playing with its friends. Professor Fur got it into a Pokeball. After driving to the lab and making sure it felt safe, we knocked it out using a painless serum. The team had not gotten all the stones yet, but we had extracted shards of the stones we still had. We had found that Eevee and every evolution of Eevee had their spine run down through their body into their tail. We implanted the shards of the Water, Fire and Thunderstone into the small Pokemon's spinal column base. Day 4. Z's story. I can't remember much, but I think that the scientists are okay. I'm back with my family and I'm just laying around. The scientists are returning tomorrow according to my parents. When they came back, they brought me back to the lab. "Well, Eevee, you deserve to know why you're here," he said. "We are experimenting with devolution, or the process of devolving Pokemon. Devolution? That's unheard of. I wonder what will happen. Now, Eevee, you are perfect for the experiment. We have already implanted parts of the evolutionary stones into your spine. Now we wish to alter your DNA to allow you to devolve at will," he said. "We're performing this to further our understanding of evolution. Do you wish to continue?" I thought about it, and I finally nodded my head. I thought that this could help both Pokemon and people. The scientist smiled. He picked me up and put me to sleep. Day 4. The 4th day was mostly monitoring Eevee's DNA changes. Everything went smoothly. We gave Eevee the ability to devolve at will, and the ability to remember moves its evolved forms know. When it evolves into a Vaporeon, it would know Hydro Pump, Acid Armor, and other moves. We weren't finished yet, because we needed to study the Eevee genome more. Afterwards, we planned to add the other 4 evolutions and give it the power to go from one evolution to another. Day 5. We got Eevee again. The shiny Eevee was looking much like a teenager who was dragged out of bed on a Monday morning. We started the testing for battle today. "Okay, Eevee, we want you to focus on becoming a Flareon. If the genetics worked, you should be able to transform with no trouble at all." I saw Eevee close its eyes. He started to glow and turn into a Flareon. I was overjoyed that nothing went wrong. This was a success beyond anything. Day 5. Z's story. I focused on becoming Flareon. I started to glow and my body temperature shot up, and I felt a warm blanket of fire around me. Then came the immediate change in major thoughts. I felt the most irresistible surge of cockiness. I felt like I could crush any foe in my path, and I immediately wanted to fight someone. The scientist pointed at a target. He said that I could test out new attacks on it. I tried Giga Impact, Flamethrower, and Fire Fang. Now, focus on becoming an Eevee again. I did so. The new body was nice and all, but I did like being Eevee. I focused and became Eevee again. I was back as an Eevee. I was then told to become Vaporeon. As Vaporeon, I was ultra calm and went back to normal thoughts, yet much calmer. I wanted to rest for a while. I used Hydro Pump and Acid Armor, and even jumped in a pool. I was really liking being in the water. Jolteon was a lot like Flareon, but I was instead very hyper. I blasted the target with Pin Missile and Thunderbolt. I even tested my speed. I was very fast. I then devolved to Eevee. You surpassed expectations. Here, have a Pokeblock. He threw me a Pokeblock and I happily ate it. Now, go get some rest. We'll get some more testing done later. Days 6 to 20. These days were filled with more testing. We have greatly decoded the Eevee genome. The DNA changes due to radiation, and each evolution stays similar regardless of how it changes. So every evolution is genetically similar to Eevee. The Sun Shard, Moon Shard, Icy Rock, and Mossy Rock have arrived. We've implanted them into Eevee's spine. Tests have still exceeded results. Eevee still cooperates with us. We are thankful, as I don't think a normal Eevee would be able to get results this good. And the chances of a Pokemon being born shiny is 1 in 8,192. We even have new data on shiny Pokemon, and that shininess is linked to stat totals, but not in every shiny Pokemon. We even got Eevee to change into different evolutions without going back to Eevee. He even learned to transform in the middle of battle. Day 6 to 20. Z's story. These were very eventful days indeed. I evolved into the calm and adept Espeon, and used my massive psychic powers and solar abilities to get around quite nicely. I could easily get through a totally dark maze as Umbreon, and my defenses were rock hard. As Leafeon, I enjoyed the fact that breathing was far simpler and that my ears were super sharp. Glaceon was really useful when it was a hot day. Day 21. Z's story. This day started the same. I got up, went to the lab, the scientists greeted me. But then strange things happened starting that day. I was 1 second a Flareon. Then I was a Vaporeon. I didn't remember changing. Then, another time, I was Glaceon, then Espeon. I kept cycling through evolutions subconsciously. So, I decided to become Eevee. What are you doing? Evolve into Flareon, something said in a harsh and angry voice. I looked around. No one was there. Even if someone was there, it wasn't anyone I met at the lab, and I knew the staff by name, face, voice, and scent. I then ran into the hall. I wanted to feel safer, but whatever was tormenting me was intending something else. Don't listen to him. Evolve into Vaporeon and stay that way, said a much calmer tone. No, evolve into Jolteon, an aggressive and energetic voice said. Evolve into Espeon, and we will rule with our psychic powers, a calm yet intellectual voice said. I'll tell you once, become Umbreon, a dominating voice said. Leafeon should be your choice, young Eevee, a calm voice, not unlike wind going through leaves said. Glaceon, now. I realized with horror that these voices were the voices of evolutions. I was no longer in my own body, I realized. I was now at the mercy of 7 consciousnesses raging for control. I started going through evolutions uncontrollably as the 7 voices in my head raged for dominance. Out of my head! Out of my head! Out of my head! I screamed in Pokemon. I raged in pain as I felt 7 blades snuff out my very being. The last thing I saw was the head scientist grabbing a needle. Day 21. I heard the screaming and all the machines picked up on the energy flux. The entire team came to see it. Poor Eevee was now uncontrollably going between evolutions. I grabbed a syringe filled with high-strength knockout serum. I fought against the energy waves and got the syringe close to Eevee. The rapid evolution was turning the air around the poor Pokemon into plasma, and the light was blinding me. I injected the serum into Eevee, burning my hand in the process. Eevee fell down unconscious. We immediately went to work to find out what was happening. We found out that Eevee had developed severe multiple personality disorder due to the varying behaviors of the evolutions. We did one last thing to Eevee. We erased all memories it had of the ordeal of the past 3 weeks, and made it so it would forget all memories it had if it became again an evolution and evolved. We shut down the lab. We told Professor Fur that it was impossible to remove the shards from Evie's spine. We said that if Evie ever regained its memory, it would either go insane, or maybe, just maybe, if a pure-hearted trainer owned it, and Evie's mind overcame the 7 other minds, it might be able to use its power to the extent we wanted it to. I've monitored Evie from time to time through Professor Fur. The little Pokemon has recovered. I regret becoming a scientist to an extent. Why is it a scientist's job to find out what can't be explained? But some things, like what life truly is, shouldn't be fully understood. Years later, I received word from Professor Fur that he gave Evie to a trainer. He has faith. I have faith. I hope that I get to see Evie again. I hope to see that he could truly become what we wanted him to be. The next entry took place later according to the text. I saw Evie with a trainer yesterday. Evie looked so happy. We talked for a while. He said he was from Topsoil Town. He said his name was... The trainer holding the journal dropped it, as his loyal Evie went over to read the name.